The moment he walked into the hall, people started laughing. Some smiled, some whispered, and others couldn't believe that someone dressed like him was attending the event. A few people even pulled out their phones to record his humiliation. He stood there alone, surrounded by people who were judging him because of his old suit and worn-out shoes. The whispers kept getting louder. Who invited this guy? He doesn't belong here. Daniel lowered his head and remained silent. But then, his phone suddenly rang. He looked at the screen. And for the first time that night, his expression changed. A few seconds later, the large doors behind him slowly began to open. The laughter faded. People turned around in confusion. And within moments, the same people who had been laughing at him started looking nervous. A few hours earlier, Daniel Carter was sitting alone in his small apartment. Life had never been easy for him. Every morning he woke up before sunrise and worked long hours just to survive. His small salary was barely enough to pay his rent and bills. While other people enjoyed expensive dinners and luxury vacations, Daniel spent most of his nights worrying about his future. His clothes were old. His shoes were worn out. And because of that, many people judged him without knowing anything about his life. But what they never saw was his determination. They never saw the sacrifices he made or the struggles he faced every single day. Daniel never complained. He simply kept moving forward, believing that one day his life would change. That evening, he received an invitation to an important company event. At first, he didn't want to go. He looked at himself in the mirror and felt that he didn't belong among successful people. For a few moments, he thought about staying home. But then he took a deep breath. Something inside him told him to attend. So he put on his old suit, adjusted his tie, and quietly left his apartment. As he walked toward the event, he had no idea that this ordinary night was about to become the most unforgettable night of his life. Because before the night ended, the same people who looked down on him would wish they had never laughed at him. The laughter continued throughout the hall. Some people were still whispering, while others kept recording Daniel with their phones. He stood there silently, pretending not to notice the humiliation. Then suddenly, his phone started ringing. At first, nobody paid attention, but when Daniel looked at the screen, something changed. For the first time that night, a small smile appeared on his face. A few guests noticed it immediately. "Why is he smiling?" one man whispered. Before anyone could understand what was happening, bright headlights appeared outside the building. A long black luxury car had just arrived. The room slowly became quiet. People turned toward the large windows in confusion. Moments later, several men in black suits stepped out of the car. They looked serious, and they were walking directly toward the entrance. The atmosphere inside the hall immediately changed. People stopped laughing. Some looked at each other nervously. Others slowly put their phones away. Daniel calmly placed his phone back into his pocket. He didn't say a single word. Then, the large doors of the hall slowly began to open. Everyone held their breath. The same people who had been mocking him only moments earlier were now completely silent, because deep inside, they could feel that something unexpected was about to happen. And within the next few moments, nobody in that room would ever forget Daniel Carter's name. When Daniel finally arrived at the event, he immediately realized that he was different from everyone else in the room. The hall was filled with wealthy and successful people. Men were wearing expensive suits, and women were dressed elegantly. As soon as Daniel stepped inside, several guests looked at him strangely. One man smirked. A woman whispered something to her friend, and both of them started laughing. Soon, more people began staring at him. Did he come to the wrong place? Look at his clothes. Who invited someone like him? The whispers quickly spread throughout the hall. Daniel could hear every single word. He tried to stay calm and pretended that nothing was happening. But deep inside, he felt embarrassed. A few people even pulled out their phones and started recording him. To them, he was nothing more than entertainment. One person laughed so loudly that almost everyone turned to look at Daniel. Within moments, the entire room was smiling, whispering, or openly mocking him. Daniel lowered his head. For a brief moment, he thought about leaving. Maybe they were right. Maybe he truly didn't belong there. But then he took a deep breath and remained standing. He had spent his entire life being judged by people who knew nothing about him. What he didn't know was that in just a few minutes, every single person in that room would regret laughing at him. Slowly opened. A tall man in an expensive suit walked into the hall, followed by several security guards. The entire room became silent. Nobody understood what was happening. Without saying a single word, the man looked around the hall and then walked directly toward Daniel. People stared at him in confusion. Some even stepped aside to make room. Daniel remained calm. Then something unbelievable happened. The man stopped in front of Daniel and respectfully shook his hand. A few people nearly dropped their phones. Others looked at each other in complete shock. One woman covered her mouth in disbelief. The same people who had been laughing only moments earlier now looked terrified. Then the man smiled and said, "Sir, we've been looking for you. Everyone is waiting for your arrival." The entire room froze. "Sir?" For a few seconds, nobody could even speak. The poor man they had been humiliating was being treated with great respect. Suddenly, all the laughter disappeared. People slowly lowered their heads. Some looked embarrassed. Others wished they could take back everything they had said. And at that moment, they realized they had made a terrible mistake. Embarrassment filled the entire room. The same people who had been laughing at Daniel only minutes earlier were now completely silent. Some slowly lowered their heads. Others quickly put their phones away, unable to look him in the eyes. A few people even tried to apologize, but Daniel remained calm. He looked around the room for a few moments and quietly said, "You judged me because of my clothes and my appearance." Nobody said a word. "You laughed at me without knowing my story." The room became even more silent. "I have spent my entire life working hard and struggling, but I never allowed difficult times to change who I am." Several people looked ashamed. Some could not even lift their heads. Daniel took a deep breath and gave a small smile. "I don't hate any of you, but I hope tonight teaches you something important." He slowly turned around and started walking toward the exit. Outside, the black luxury car was waiting for him. As he entered the car, everyone stood there in complete silence.